Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Dhanashri and today we are going to talk about maternity leave in the NHS. So let's get started. Firstly, you are entitled to about 52 weeks, that is up to 1 year of maternity leave in the NHS. So it totally depends on you how much time you want to take off. However, you need to take at least 2 weeks of time off, which is a compulsory leave after the birth of your baby. You do get 2 weeks of paid paternity leave as well, and you have the option of shared parental leave, where if both parents are working in the NHS, they can share their maternity and paternity leave as they want to. You need to inform your employer at least 15 weeks prior to your due date. Now, my due date was on 20th of November, so 15 weeks prior to that would be in the second week of August. So I would have to tell my employer at least by the second week of August about my pregnancy. However, I would highly recommend that you inform your employer as soon as you are comfortable with making the announcement, as you get paid time off for antenatal visits. So in order to be eligible to take this paid time off, you need to inform your employer about these visits and about your pregnancy. Not only do you get paid time off for your medical appointments, but you also get some time off for any physiotherapy sessions or relaxation sessions, as long as they are prescribed by your midwife or registered medical practitioner. Even the partner gets paid time off for up to 2 antenatal appointments. When can you start your maternity leave? Well, you can start at any time up to 11 weeks before your expected childbirth. So in my case, I was due on 20th of November 2023. So 11 weeks before that would be somewhere in second week of September. So I could start my maternity leave anytime between then and my EDD. So in case your contract ends after the 11th week before your expected week of confinement, which in my case, as we discussed, was the second week of September, then your contract would have to be extended to cover the duration of your maternity, which is what exactly happened in my case. My contract was supposed to end in the first week of October, and because it was after the 11th week before my expected week of confinement, they had to extend my contract to cover the duration of maternity. Now, once you tell your employer regarding your pregnancy, it is the employer's responsibility to carry out a pregnancy risk assessment, where they need to assess your working conditions and see if any adjustments need to be made for any particular kind of work that puts either you or your baby at risk. So, for example, in my case, because I was working in urology and there was a lot of radiation exposure in theaters, once I informed them about my pregnancy and they did a risk assessment, I was taken off any radiation cases. So I was swapped out of them. You can even ask to be taken off on-call rota if you're not able to carry out on-calls during your pregnancy. In my case, after my 6th month, I was not able to carry out my night shift. So they swapped me out of my night shifts. And even with all these temporary adjustments, your pay is protected, because these are only temporary adjustments to protect the health of you and your baby. Moving on, now let's talk about maternity pay. Your NHS maternity pay is a sum of your statutory maternity pay, or SMP, and your occupational maternity pay, or OMP. We're going to discuss these in detail. To be eligible for statutory maternity pay, you need to be in 26 weeks of continuous NHS service with your employer running into the 15th week before the expected week of confinement. So in my case, as we've discussed before, the 15th week before my expected week of confinement, which is the qualifying week, was the second week of August. So I should have been in 26 weeks of continuous service with my employer to be eligible for statutory maternity pay. So 26 weeks is roughly about 6 months. And if I was employed with my employer 6 months before my qualifying week, I would be eligible for statutory maternity pay. This is basically just to prevent people from starting a new employment as soon as they find out about their pregnancy, just to avail benefits of maternity pay. Statutory maternity pay is paid for 39 weeks, out of which in the first 6 weeks you get 90% of your average weekly earnings, and in the next 33 weeks you get £184 per week or 90% of your average weekly earnings, whichever is lower. To be eligible for occupational maternity pay, you need to have 12 months of continuous NHS service at the beginning of the 11th week before your expected week of childbirth. So in my case, 11 weeks before 20th of November was in the second week of September, as we've previously discussed. So I should have been in 12 months of continuous NHS service. So since September 2022, if I was in continuous NHS service, I would be eligible for occupational maternity pay. Also, you need to show that you're intending to return to work in the NHS at the end of maternity leave. In case you are not intending to return to work, then of course you're not eligible for occupational maternity pay. And in case you change your mind later and never return to work in the NHS, you have to pay back whatever OMP that you received during this period. Occupational maternity leave is paid for 26 weeks, out of which you get your full pay in the first 8 weeks, and in the next 18 weeks, you get half pay. Now, this pay is calculated on your average earnings in the last 2 pay months, 15th week before your expected week of confinement. So in my case, 15 week before my expected week of confinement was in the second week of August. So in the month of June and July, my average earnings would be calculated, and this would be used to calculate my OMP. So your maternity pay is OMP plus SMP. In the first 8 weeks, you only get your OMP, which is your full pay. In the next 18 weeks, you get OMP, which is your half pay, plus SMP. In the next 13 weeks, you only get your SMP, and the last 13 weeks are unpaid. So you get a total of 9 months of some kind of paid leave, either SMP, OMP, or both. You can also ask them to average out this pay throughout the duration of your pregnancy, so you get more or less the same pay every month. In my case, I asked them to average it out over the duration of my maternity leave, which was 9 months. So I roughly got almost the same amount every month. Also remember, you will have accrued annual leaves during the period of your maternity leave. Basically, after doing all these calculations, what I have realized is that you get 6 months of full pay during your maternity leave. You also get your accrued annual leave pay, which in my case came up to about 1.5 months. So a total of 7.5 months of full pay during your maternity leave. I would also like to share my experience in the NHS during my pregnancy. I think it was a smooth ride for me, thanks to all the wonderful people that I had. As soon as I informed my consultants, my colleagues, and my managers about my pregnancy, they were very prompt in doing a pregnancy risk assessment. Workplace adjustments were made. I was taken off cases which require radiation exposure. I was obviously not made to do any heavy laborious work. I was also taken off my night on call shifts. I was swapped because I found that I could not continue after my 6th month of pregnancy. So I was very fortunate to be surrounded by wonderful people. I was also given time off for my antenatal appointments, and the payroll team was also very prompt at giving me a forecast of how much I would be earning during my maternity leave. And my managers also promptly calculated my accrued annual leaves so that I could take them and get maximum benefits. So all in all, if you're planning a pregnancy whilst being employed in the NHS, I think it should be a smooth process for you as well. Please do let me know in the comments section if you have any questions. I will link important documents in the description box for you to have a look and to be aware about your rights as a pregnant doctor. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel to see more such content. I'll see you in my next video and take care.